I feel like you're doing a little yoga too for that pretzel that you got yourself in.
Dude, I love that people make money and they do it because they invest.
But listen,
and they
I just
have
want
a lot of money. That's awesome.
in quarter
That's
one.
America.
You know, you really don't have to do this. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Your home for independent commentary, news, and analysis on all things politics, media, and more. Anyway, we're going to watch a clip from one of those shows that's always going viral on cable news. You guys know I'm pretty down on cable news. I think it's pretty low IQ, low information slop for the most part. Most of it's just partisan. There's very little actual dialogue or debate. However, one show I do like is CNN's Newsnight, hosted by Abby Phillip. I've been on it a couple times in the past, and as chaotic as it can get, and as much as I raise my eyebrows at some of the folks who are on there, they at the very least do have debates and dialogue and hash things out, and that's something I respect. That's something I think is important in our politics and in our media that very rarely happens, getting people with different perspectives, sharply different perspectives, in the same room to hash things out. But sometimes when that happens, people do let their partisanship or their tribalism win, and that is very much, in my view at least, what happened in a clip that's going viral. So here's the headline from Mediaite. CNN panelists chuckle as MAGA pundit ties himself in pretzel defending Trump's profits. CNN's Newsnight panel broke into laughter Thursday night when network analyst Bakari Sellers observed that conservative commentator Ben Ferguson was tying himself into a pretzel to defend the Trump family's business ventures. The debate came as the panel discussed two fresh developments involving Trump's finances. The first was the president's annual financial disclosure released Tuesday by the U.S. Office of Government Ethics, which showed Trump more than tripled his income in 2025, the year he returned to the White House, earning more than $2 billion. Now, I covered this big news on the channel already, and most of it came from his crypto profits, a lot of which is pushing what's essentially a meme coin, a totally lacking any actual value asset to his gullible followers, most of whom lost huge amounts of money on it, while actively overseeing the crypto industry and making regulatory decisions about it. It's a clear conflict of interest. The coin was tied to his presidential ascension pretty directly, so it's profiting off the presidency, and it's the exact kind of swampy, gross stuff that even if you support Trump overall, even if you think he's done a good job on the border, you agree with XYZ thing that he's done overall, you should just be able to say, like, this is gross. This is not how our politics should operate. And yet, some people simply will not admit that Trump can do any wrong, it seems, or that anything could possibly be less than stellar with him, despite everything that continues to pile up. And at least in this case, that's what conservative commentator Ben Ferguson did on the panel by deflecting and making excuses for just indefensible levels of graft. Anyway, here's that clip.
Yoga, I feel like you're doing a little yoga too for that pretzel that you got yourself in.
Dude, I love that people make money and they do it because they invest.
But listen,
and they
I just
have
want
a lot of money. That's awesome.
In quarter one of 2026.
Well, let's pause for a second. He says that I love when people make money because they invest and they have money. That might be how I feel in general. That's how I feel generally about investments. And I totally support wealthy, successful people. But there's two problems with that in this scenario. One, selling a meme coin is not a productive investment. It's essentially a scam. Two, the stock trades and actual investments that the president made, well, just like when, and as he brings up, Nancy Pelosi does it or other political insiders do it, there's a clear conflict of interest presented by the insider information. I mean, he's the president of the United States, so he has access to all sorts of information, and some of it's in a blind trust, sure, but it's like his movements and his statements literally move and shift the same stocks he is publicly discussing and trading on. That's totally unfair. That's not a normal productive investment. So it's not just a generalized, it's good when people invest and are successful. I agree with that, but that doesn't really apply to the revenue and money we're talking about here with Trump. Anyway, we'll keep going.
Donald Trump has executed 3,500 trades. You want to know what's unethical about
Almost
that?
as many as Nancy Pelosi.
I'm glad you brought her up because it's not. It's nowhere near.
Nancy Pelosi,
but can I finish? Can I finish real quick? Can I finish? Can I finish real quick? Because you asked. Can I ask? Can I answer your question?
No, it's not. But
and it's not.
Nancy Pelosi has.
But
they made an app to follow her trades because she's so good at it.
Wait, but it's just funny because Ben just a second ago was saying there's nothing wrong with people who have money investing and getting a good return and making money. But now he's bringing up Nancy Pelosi and how bad it is she does all these trades. Which is it? I think it's bad in both cases. I think it's corrupt and swampy and should be illegal when Nancy Pelosi does it. And I've said that for many years. And I also think it's bad when Trump does it. As for the exact amount of who's done more, like, bro, who cares? We should want all our politicians to not be insider trading actively in front of our eyes. But it's just partisanship to just deflect to Pelosi because you don't realize that to whatever extent you're highlighting a double standard among Democrats, you're also highlighting a double standard among yourself, dude. Frustrating. It's frustrating for me to listen to. But anyway, let's keep going.
Good at it.
Ben, come here.
She's literally better than Wall Street at it.
Just a second. Objectively, the amount of money is not the same. Okay,
percentage-wise, based on her salary.
We don't need to fight about that. It's just not the same amount of money.
Nancy Pelosi was making how much a year, and how many millions is she now worth? Okay, but that's insider trading. Donald Trump walks in with $1 billion, and it turns into $2 billion, and you guys are freaking out. $1 billion is a lot to start with. Like a lot.
Ben, to utilize
like a lot of money.
Ben, to utilize your phrase, the president makes $400,000 a year,
and he gives it back.
This quarter, he's made over $1 billion, 1.4 billion on crypto alone.
That's amazing.
What I want to tell you that's unethical is the fact that when you make 3,500 trades in 1 year, and you go up and you invest in a company, and then you sit in the Oval Office and you tell people, wow, this company is great. This company is going to do X, Y, Z. Or you ease regulations on this company and you trade and purchase stock in that company. That fundamentally is unethical. You can call it what you want.
So should we then go after Nancy Pelosi with the same vigor that you just went after?
Yes,
because she does it for years.
Yes, Ben. We absolutely should. And there's actually been bipartisan movement towards banning members of Congress from trading stocks. And that's fine. Let's do it for Nancy Pelosi. Let's do it for Republicans who trade stocks. And yes, let's apply it to the president. But that's not a defense of Trump pushing a scam coin on his gullible followers to make billions of dollars. It's actually not even the same thing because the stock market and investments on the stock market, some of which is in a blind trust, is just totally different than pushing the cryptocurrency. So it's a massive deflection, and there is a clear conflict of interest here. I'm going to read you another headline. Trump from Mediaite. Trump made 327 stock purchases the day before he announced, quote, "This is a great time to buy and pause tariffs." You simply can't. And obviously, we don't fully know how involved he is in every level of decision-making about this, or if it's really being done, just some of this time it could be coincidental. But the appearance of impropriety is itself disqualifying in terms of this being any sort of acceptable conduct. People have to have faith that the stock market is not being manipulated by the most powerful people for their own profit. And doesn't he have enough money? Like, just here, this is what I don't understand about this graph stuff. And obviously it's not just Trump, but he's the most high-profile current example. These people are already wealthy beyond belief. What difference does it make to your life if it's $1 billion or $2 billion? Maybe I'm just not a money motivated person. I genuinely can't relate to that. I don't understand it. But you know the deflections are just him being a partisan, in this case, Ben Ferguson, because even many heavily anti-democratic media outlets or very right-leaning media outlets have called out the Trump administration. So the Free Press, which is run or was at least originally founded by Barry Weiss, published an editorial titled "Trump's Art of the Self-Deal," writing that there is no modern parallel for the scale and shamelessness with which the president is enriching himself in office. And this is an outlet that has at many times defended, while also some routinely criticizing, but defended the Trump administration. Then you have the New York Post's editorial board, and this is an editorial board that is explicitly pro-Trump and overwhelmingly agrees with him overall, writing about a recent deal that they negotiated with Trump's sons being involved and investing in the same deal that the president is negotiating, their headline is Hunter Biden-style sleaze is just as slimy when the Trump boys do it. So there's really no explaining this away. Anyone who is approaching this from an honest perspective, an independent perspective that's not just Team Red, Team Blue, is going to come to the conclusion that there is vastly, vastly inappropriate and unethical activity happening here. Huge self-dealing and self-profiteering and enrichment. I don't know exactly what's illegal versus legal in these kinds of complicated exchanges and transactions. It will be investigated, and it may come out that some of it's illegal, but basically all of it should be to be doing this kind of thing while you're actively the policymaker influencing the decisions that directly affect all of the outcomes of this. If you want to be in public service, you should have to just set it all aside. Set the business. You're worth enough money. A president gets a salary of $400,000. I believe Trump donates his anyway, so clearly he doesn't even need that. But it's like you should either be in public service or try to make yourself as rich as possible. You shouldn't be doing both at the same time. And that's not a crazy take. In fact, it's something Trump himself said over and over and over again on the campaign trail. Because remember, his whole thing was drain the swamp. And now it's like he's, drained the swamp to build a gold mine on it instead, owned and operated by him. So here is a supercut made by CNN of all the times Trump railed about how bad it is that people are enriching themselves in Washington involved in the government. Let's listen to that.
The insiders wrote the rules of the game to keep themselves in power and in the money. Hillary Clinton has perfected the politics of personal profit and even theft.
These corrupt
true, but now look at you.
And the radical leftists got rich bleeding America dry. The Bidens got rich. And that is substantiated. While America got robbed. Politicians ran for office promising to protect American workers. But then they went to Washington and they lined their pockets with special interest cash. We will dethrone the failed political class and we will drain the Washington swamp. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself.
Well, I actually agree with most of what President Trump said in those different commentaries spliced together here, but I wonder if he still does, or if he really doesn't see any inconsistency with all of that and the things he's doing now, especially in this term. In his first term in office, he really didn't do very much of this stuff. It's like this is much more uniquely a phenomenon of his second term in office. And maybe that's because he's not going to run again, and so he just doesn't care. But it's like that doesn't make it ethical or okay. And especially when President Trump, like one of his main appeals to people who voted MAGA, right? He's like, oh, he supports us. He cares about the everyday American or whatever. But a lot of this wealth is coming directly at the expense of his supporters. And to some extent, that's their own fault for investing money in stupid things like the Trump meme coins that literally said in a disclaimer on them, this is not an investment, just buy this to support President Trump. But still, the stories coming out about this, about how people put money on it and assumed it was a good investment because President Trump, their hero, was promoting it and then lost thousands of dollars. It really does put into focus how this wealth, some of it, was directly at the expense of his supporters. And that does seem slimy and like a betrayal of those people. If you really cared about them, they're the struggling folks who've been struggling to get by, the left behind people who you were supposed to stand up for. And instead, you're making yourself even more money, even though you're already super rich, at their expense. Anyway, here's a clip where they're talking about a story reported by Reuters, where they spoke to several Trump supporters who directly lost money on his cryptocurrency. And the stories are just shocking, really. Listen to this.
These are two investors into the Trump coin, and these are Trump supporters. If Trump was putting his name behind it, it must be a legitimate investment. This is a woman who spoke to Reuters. She put $2,000 of her savings into the Trump meme. At the end of May, her Trump holding was worth less than $120. She now thinks it was just a pump and dump scheme.
Because it was.
The second investor, Matt, a 45-year-old machinist in Indiana, put $40,000 into Trump family tokens. When a stock has presidential backing in a way, at least from his sons, you would think it would go up. Matt's shares have dropped 79% in value since he bought them for a loss of about $32,700. He does not blame the Trump family. He said he believes Democrats and anti-Trump investors are taking short positions.
Bruh. That's actually crazy, that last bit at the end there. I do feel bad for these people in some sense because they lost so much money. But in the other sense, I mean, they're incredibly gullible and they are adults who made a ridiculous financial decision. And ultimately, that is on them. But then to blame the Democrats for taking short positions. I mean, I imagine such positions exist, but it's like it was still a clear, obvious pump and dump meme coin that they were promoting. And if you'd even just read or looked at the trajectory of every similar or almost every similar kind of product, or you'd even just read when you were clicking through to purchase it, oftentimes there were pretty significant disclaimers about how this is not an investment and this is just like a commemorative coin or something. And so if you did all that and then somehow you're not blaming the Trump family that kind of swindled you or pushed something that they got rich off because they pumped it and dumped it, but they probably always knew was not going to be profitable for supporters. You're not blaming yourself for your own incredible stupidity and lack of due diligence. You're blaming Democrats somehow for somehow taking short positions. It's just delusional beyond belief. And I do find this whole thing just incredibly, incredibly slimy. And I just don't understand why anyone feels the need to defend it. You don't have to become a liberal and say oh, suddenly I love abortion and trans athletes and I want to, eat the rich or anything like that. Just to say, actually, it's bad when politicians from any party graft or enrich themselves in office and profit off a presidency and basically do so at the expense of their supporters. That's not a partisan take, or at least it shouldn't be. That's my take. Y'all will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Hit the like button and do consider becoming a channel member to support me if you can. These are the kinds of videos I lose money on because nobody really actually likes to hear criticism of their own side. So whatever, that's what I'm here to do, is to give my honest, independent take on politics, media, and more. So we'll keep doing it, and we'll be back with more real soon.